I'm going to get to great, I promise. Oh, pressure. Hi, welcome everybody. I'm going to start with the story of how you got here. So our casting process here is very both simple and complicated. We basically begin by playing fantasy Broadway. Who do we want? Would they do it? Now, so when it was announced that we were doing it in the Heights, we were, got phone calls, emails, some really talented Broadway types, and people were really interested because the show, and we'll get into it, is just so beautiful and rich and important and rarely produced, actually. Rarely is a little strong, but not often produced. But then we have a tradition here at the Muny of just really, we work very hard at seeking and finding exciting new talent and hopefully giving them their first break or things like that. So we had all these tapes that were sent, and there were a lot of tapes, and within like the heights of Lights Up of Washington Heights, watching him, I was like, oh my God, it's Usnavi. And now what's really hard about the part, and he's very modest, is you have to walk out on a stage, an audience doesn't know who you are, you have to give them a lot of information, you have to welcome them to a world, you have to be a combination sort of through the night between Harold Hill and John Valjean, right? You're just doing this, you're living in two worlds because you also carry the emotional weight. And we're watching this, and then Bax, my brilliant artistic associate, he'd see him too, he's like, this we use the word kid, sorry. We're like, this kid. And we thought, how are we going to talk the director into this? Because there were some names who wanted it. And so we're all on a Zoom, and it's casting us and Bax and all the things. And I said, okay, let's open the bidding. And before I could, William stops and goes, I'm sorry, I just did everyone look at Benji's tape? And we were like, oh my God, yes, yeah! So we were like, and then we looked and we saw that, he was just beginning his career. We said, okay, and we invited you to New York to a casting session, and you take the story from there.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I submitted the self-tape, and I didn't hear anything for about I feel like 3 weeks to a month, and then one random Wednesday night I get an email from my agent saying, Benji, you're in the mix for this, and I was like, because to even be considered, is a dream. This show has been a dream of mine for so long. I could go on about it. I'm sure I'll tell this story, a couple of stories within this concept here right now. And so I was actually in New York for a couple callbacks for other things, and I got out of an audition, and my agent called me, and I was like, what's up, you have an update? And she was like, no, but they want to see you for Heights on Tuesday, can you stay in New York? And I was like, yes, I can, of course, I'll do anything. So I stayed on a friend's couch, show up to the audition, and I was like one of the first people that they saw, in that round. And immediately it was a different sort of energy in that audition room. William stepped out from behind the table and shook my hand as soon as I walked in the room, which doesn't usually happen in audition rooms. Usually everyone stays over there and I do my thing over here. But you could kind of immediately tell what it was going to be like to work with this team. So inviting. It was kind of funny. They asked to prepare a pop rock cut, which is just like a song that's a non-musical theater song. And so I brought it in, and so the first thing I asked them, I was like, so do you guys want to hear the song? And then they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, oh, the song that I brought in a song. And they were like, oh, you brought in a song? Cool, yeah, do that. And I was like, oh, sure. So I gave my book to the pianist, and I sang Crocodile Rock by Elton John. Which I just love doing that one. It's very full body, not necessarily the style of the show, but I felt energetically it seemed right. And they really liked it, and then we sort of workshopped the material in the next 20 minutes, and it was great. And I finished the audition, and they didn't want to see anything else, but I assured them I could do anything from any character they wanted me to, because this has been my favorite show since I was 16. And I drove back from New York to Pittsburgh, where I went to school. And I was in the middle of my school day when my agent called me, saying, she said, "Did you make it back okay?" And I said, yes, I did. And she was like, "Wow, you really you really grind for this. You really have been driving back and forth from school to New York, and you really want to make this happen. And I was like, of course, this is my dream. This is my passion. And she said, well, sometimes it pays off. And I was like, what? And she's like, you're going to be Usnavi at the Muny. And I was like, you mean like an understudy or what? And she was like, no, they want you to be the guy. And I was like, so it was, one of the best calls of my life. Yeah.
So the funniest thing about the Crocodile Rock thing was, you're asking someone who's in college to walk out and have the presence and the courage and the insight to begin a show in front of 10,000 people. I mean, not many can do that. I can't do that. And I was like, well, if this guy can do Crocodile Rock in front of us, we're good. It was great. Talk about, do you even remember the first time you heard In the Heights?
Yeah, actually, they did it at the Orlando Shakespeare Theater I want to say it was around 2019. I was a junior in high school, and my mom had seen the show on Broadway when it was on Broadway, and she was like, Benji, you should come see this show. I really loved it when it was on Broadway, and I knew nothing about it. All I knew was Lin-Manuel Miranda had written Hamilton, and I was getting into theater at the time, so I was like, sure. I showed up late to the theater, actually. I drove my car, and I parked, and I ran in, and all of a sudden, I just the two things that stuck out for me the first time I saw the show was, one, the Piragua guy. I was like, the fact that this is a part of a musical was awesome to me. I was like this random kind of comic relief character. And then I just remember seeing my grandma on stage, in Abuela Claudia. And I think that is specifically a character that a lot of kids are gay. Do you need water?
Yeah.
It's okay. But I think that character specifically is one that me and a lot of Hispanic people that I know at least can resonate with. We all have our abuelas, and they sort of have that position in our family, which is a very important one. And I grew up listening to a lot of hip hop, and so hearing that sort of rhythm in a musical theater soundtrack was one. It made me really believe, this is a musical that I don't necessarily have to stretch myself into this role. I can exist as myself and be this sort of vehicle for these words and this rhythm. So yeah, I felt very, very at home, definitely, the first time I heard it.
And then, so you were born in Puerto Rico, is that correct?
I was born in Puerto Rico. I was born in Bayamon, Puerto Rico. And when I was a toddler, my family relocated to Orlando, Florida, and so we.
So grade school and high school in Orlando.
In Orlando, yeah.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
And so theater became you were like a sophomore, junior in high school?
Yeah, I didn't do my first show until sophomore year of high school.
And what was that show?
It was Peter and the Starcatcher.
Which is sort of a musical, but it's a comedy.
A play with music, yeah. And funny enough, also, stop me if I'm rambling.
No.
I don't know how much time we have, but it's a play with music, so there's one song in it, and I remember my director asking me, it took a lot for me to even audition for the musical. My friends had to beg me, and I was like, sure, fine. Had a lot of pride back then. And she asked me, she was like, hey, do you want to audition for this song? We can put you in the song. And I was like, I said, and I quote, I will never be in a musical. I said that to everyone in the room. I will never be in a musical. And then the next semester, they were doing this musical called Now Hear This for the musical theater class. And a girl that I had a crush on asked me, she was like, hey, are you auditioning for the musical? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then once I did that, it opened the floodgates, and I found really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So,
and did you train vocally outside, or you just?
I did. Once I started college auditions around senior year and preparing for that for junior year, that's when I really started to take vocal lessons and really do all my research so that I could be best prepared for that. Yeah.
So a couple days into rehearsal, you mentioned the director. I checked in on I said, how's Benji doing? He goes, oh, he's been off book since he was 16. But you're listening to the piece and your love of the piece, and now being Usnavi and living it. Mm-hmm. Any discoveries? What has surprised you? What has moved you? What has been the hardest part of it?
Yeah. Honestly, I think when I first started, you know, as soon as I got the call, I've been listening to and you know, rapping along with the soundtrack every single day since. You know, anytime I have that, like in the car or in the shower, I'm always just trying to like go through everything as fast as I can to make sure like I can get my diction right and make sure I can be understood. I think the hardest part for me, honestly, in actively working on this in character rather than just singing along to, you know, to it as a song I like, has been unlearning those habits that I developed in singing it for so long. And also, you know, imbuing these words with feeling and with meaning and what they really mean for Usnavi rather than just like what they mean in the context of the story. And I think very immediately it became very apparent that this story, not only, you know, is it about, obviously about community, about family, about a culture that I share with the people in this cast, but it really is about, you know, what you would do for the people that you love, you know, the sacrifices we make for the ones that we love. Because it was in our first read and sing through, which was on the second or third day. Yeah. You know, I was sitting there and I was listening to my castmates, you know, read through this script. And I started to check off in my head, you know, wow, this character has a very selfless moment in the show. And then this character has another selfless moment. Every single character, if you really watch this show, you know, everyone has a moment where they're giving up a part of themselves or something, that is some selfless action for, you know, the betterment of their community or to have someone's back, you know, or to make someone else's dream come true. And that really, I mean, it inspired me, you know, even further. I didn't think that the show could inspire me any more than it already has, but it really started to resonate on a molecular level, you know. And that's the wave that I've been riding this entire process, you know, just the love that I feel from this cast, both in character and out of character. Yeah, it's so beautiful, you know. I mean, there's new discoveries every day, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that is part of the Muny experience it for the actors. The discovery of the show continues throughout the 7 performances. Mm-hmm. Like I've encouraged people, go to the first performance and go to the last performance, and you won't believe the changes, because people begin living it differently every night, and there's different discoveries, and it's also real and vibrant. I have to ask though, so on that first night, when you were getting ready to walk out there, butterflies, heart, were you calm? What was it?
You know, I'm really fortunate to be in a position where I feel like I mean, both sort of in a non-literal and literal sense, I have a lot of people looking to me, you know, to sort of lead. I'm at center stage, downstage for a lot of the show. So I feel like it's very, very important, you know, the energy that I give off in this show. I feel like that dictates, or it can dictate, you know, the energy of the entire ensemble. So knowing that that's my role, I made it a priority to shake off all of the nerves, you know, before I even got to the theater, and just make this a labor of love, you know. Like the excitement that I had for this and the love that I have for this work, it surmounted any nerves that I had that or any doubt. And honestly, there really hasn't been any doubt, because I know that everyone is, you know, so locked into this work, and everyone is so, I feel like, comfortable with it. And the preparation that we've done, even in these 7 days, you know, has been so vast. And so we had it, and we knew we had it too. Yeah. You know, the most important thing for me was we circled everyone up right before we walked on stage, and you know, just thanked each other. I just told them that they had changed my life, which is so true. You know, this has changed my life. It continues to change my life every day that I'm here. It will have long-lasting impacts, you know, for the rest of my life and my career. And we gave thanks to the people that preceded us. You know, we stand on the shoulders of the people that wrote this show. We stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, you know, of our whole family that either, you know, they're watching from above or they're here and seeing the show. And just thank God, you know, that he put us, you know, all in this room too. So together. And yeah, just leading with gratitude, I feel like, is something that I really have been leading into this year specifically in my life. And something that I feel tenfold in being in this room.
And I promise you will feel that tonight with this community on stage. It has been a beautiful group of artists.
Yeah.
Who from day one just sort of embraced each other. And it's also been very special for us because William, the director, another thing we love to do here is, that, you know, again, this is a theater where some of, this is not hyperbole, eventually some of our greatest talents or greatest Broadway names find their voice. And William choreographed 3 shows. He did On Your Feet, Legally Blonde, and last year, Little Shop. And I was always watching his command and his heart and his ability with his team. And I said, okay, you're ready. So he directed and choreographed this production, which is a very specific, it sounds general, but it's very specific because the director choreographer schools like Michael Bennett, Tommy Tune, Gower Champion, and they are, Susan Stroman, they are artists who see the show as an entity. And the relationship between the music and the sets and the performances is all one to sort of bring you into the world and give you a total music experience. And so what was it like working with William? What's the sort of things you need from a director? What is that process like?
Yeah, this is another one of those moments that I you know, had a sort of realization in the rehearsal room. Is it just became very apparent that William is a director choreographer because he had hands on literally every aspect of the show. There was no moment in which William, you know, had a moment of like, oh, well, what's that part? No, he knew, he has the entire script memorized. He knows every line and every song. He knows all of the choreography. Like he's not just saying, oh, you know, these dancers, what do you do in this part? He's doing it full out. He's like, no, it's like this, which is insane to me. You know, like the amount of neural pathways that you have to have, like active all at once. And of course he has like an awesome team supporting him, you know, writing down everything that he says, and also, you know, people that know the show just as well as he does. But it was so awesome to see someone just have such a full grasp of the show. And I had this thought, you know, today that this show specifically is so, it's so full in the sense that there are so many languages happening in this show. There is English and Spanish at the same time, and there is dance and there is music, you know, all intertwined. And William speaks all of those languages fluently, which has been so helpful to have like as a leader, you know.
The other thing I believe you'll see that I think he's spectacular at, when you have a lot of words, right? So you as an audience member, you have oral, you have visual, you have music, you have a lot of information coming at you at once. And it's easy for it all just to collide. You don't know what you're supposed to, where you're supposed to look at and what you're supposed to hear. And as you're watching the show tonight, you'll just take a moment to be aware like, oh, I am listening so intently on this set of lyrics. And then, okay, we are now in this world and that's okay. Like he guides you through the important information and that. But I will also say, you are incredible at that. I mean, the amount of words you have, complicated rhythms, that you have to communicate important ideas and feelings and notions, where we're getting it from all of that. Where did you learn that?
I'm not sure. I don't know that I quite have a specific answer for you, but you know, part of the reason why this character I feel like has been the #1 dream role for me, and why Lin-Manuel Miranda is such a big inspiration for me, is since I first encountered his work, I feel like we operate at a similar tempo. You know, there's a similar internal tempo. There's a way that our clocks are set, me and this character, that I feel like is just intrinsic. You know, that's something that I guess has to be.
Well, I can tell you another similarity because I've worked with him. And one of the reasons I was so excited about you doing this is Lin, if he's in this room, he has a very special light to him, an incredible humility. And he's just kind of this life force. There's an energy forward, and from the moment you walk into a room, like when I watched in the rehearsal room, I was like, oh, there's that energy. There's that sense of being and possibility that's makes everybody want to watch you and tell a story. So just know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Do you travel with the show to the next city?
We're one and done here. All our Muny shows are created here.
Oh, so the groups don't travel to different cities?
No. No. This is everything at the Muny is created here, cast here, done for this theater and this audience. Yeah. Yeah. The touring shows play at the Fox Theater. Yes. Yeah. That's okay. I'm getting a circle. We should be wrapping up.
Have you been Manuela's understudy yet?
No, I have not. But it definitely is a dream to work with him. And so, yeah.
Without even singing yet.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Oh, and you?
Oh, I just want to give you, say thank you so much for acknowledging the communities that you're representing on stage and for acknowledging the ancestors that you're representing on stage.
Yeah.
And from giving us that love
Yeah.
that makes this world more diverse. So
Definitely.
thank you so much for doing that.
No, of course. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.
Lovely.
Thank you all for being here. Thank these two kind gentlemen one more time. Just to let you know, before he came down here, Benji was super kind and autographed